Hi, I'm Dr. Kyla, paediatric dietitian, fussy eating specialist, and mum of two. I'm the founder of the online Mealtimes memberships that help parents just like you experience a confident and guilt-free way of feeding children. I'm also a business owner, a hot cross bun lover, and my superpower is finding things that you cannot live without. In this podcast, I'm talking about feeding your family, along with a random selection of topics that tickle my fancy. Welcome to Mealtimes with Dr. Kyla.
All right, welcome to today's podcast episode. Today's guest is Nat Dignam, otherwise known as Nat from the other F word. She is a personal stylist, and if you followed me on social media for a while, you'll know that Nat has helped me find a real interest in getting dressed, which I can honestly say I haven't been very good at in the past. I used to love shopping before I had kids, but honestly, I never had an idea of what I was actually looking for. I bought lots of cheap clothes, nothing that I necessarily felt wonderful in. So welcome to the podcast, Nat. It's lovely to have you.
Hello, Dr. Kyla. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. It's so fun to talk to you normally, so it's lovely to have you on the podcast. Tell the listeners a little bit about you and what you do.
So I am a personal stylist. A lot of people are like, okay, so what does that mean? Basically, I help everyday people it's problem solving for me. It's working out the gaps between how someone aspires to dress or functionally needs to dress for their day-to-day and how they want to present and who they are as a person and what their clothes say about them, filling the gap between that and how they're actually presenting. So yeah, it's the best job ever. It's super fun. It's about clothes, but it's really at the core of it about problem solving for me.
And it's transformational. I would say that like the work that you did with me really changed the way I think about clothes, about getting dressed, about outfits. And it's like been quite an exciting process. And I was quite daunted at the start when we started working together. So I think you're right. Like it really bridges that gap for lots of people who just don't really understand fashion or themselves or their own personal style.
Yeah, right. Because we change, you yourself, I myself, you go from being this carefree, high disposable income, person who has all the time in the world to think about how they're dressing or really enjoy shopping. Or maybe if you didn't, but yeah, your life transitions, right? To maybe, you change workplaces or your lifestyle, your set of circumstances changes for one reason or another. You might move to a different part of the world where it's hotter or colder than where you were. You work less, you work more. There's, constant changes that happen and your clothes kind of need to keep up with that. But like, at what point do you sort of recalibrate and make those changes to make sure that your clothing is keeping up with who you are present day?
I love that thought because I feel like I'm much more strategic now when I look at my wardrobe in terms of putting things together, but also in terms of what I need, which I never did before I met you. So maybe we can talk through some of the things that you have done with me and taught me over the years, because we've actually like maybe worked together for 2 years, would you say?
Yeah, or maybe coming up to 3, I would say, almost even.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. Long-term relationship almost.
So when Nat first came over to my house, she said something to me that stuck with me. And Nat, you said, we're very good at dressing for weddings. We're very good at dressing for exercise. But most women in particular kind of get stuck with everything in between that. And that statement really rang true for me. I could dress to go to the gym or for a walk. I feel actually okay getting dressed for a wedding. But the other day-to-day, like smart casual, has me very unsure, or did have me very unsure. What kind of makes you say, what's that statement about?
So that for me is all about, one of my philosophies as a personal stylist is around having uniforms, and so personal uniforms. And what I mean by that is those sort of day-to-day go-to looks that you can adopt, tweak, recreate, to be dressed functionally for your day and represent who you are through your clothing. So if you think about something like a wedding, there's, I guess, like a quote unquote sort of uniform that you follow, maybe like a cocktail dress or a full length gown, some heels. There's a certain type of bag that you would hold. Like, you're going to take like a clutch or a little over the shoulder bag. you know, you might pop on some jewelry, you know, extra makeup, hair, whatever. There's sort of, you know, a little list or a
There's
checkbox.
rules.
There's rules, right?
I love
rules to
rules.
follow for that. I love rules too. I'm a rule follower, little nerdy accountant at heart. But so, you know, for social settings like that, and there's also certain stores that you go to fulfill like those needs if you have a gap in your wardrobe. Or certain sections of a department store, or whatever it may be. And then if you think about something like going to the gym, there's another set of little rules and a uniform to follow. So you pop on your sneakers, you put on your tights, a t-shirt, a crop top, a singlet, whatever it might be, a little headband and your AirPods or whatever. So you've got your own little uniform for that environment. So, you know, there are those certain social settings where you can follow, I guess, the norm, right? But the day to day, it's wide open. So you can be whoever you are, whoever you want to be, and dress for however you want to for any given day, which is equal parts, I guess, like depending on where you stand on it, equal parts thrilling and exciting and amazing, or daunting, overwhelming, and awful, because you can pick anything in your wardrobe and make it work, or on the other hand, you can pick anything in your wardrobe and have to try and make it work. So I like to think about having those personal uniforms, like I said earlier, that you can go to for that for a given day. So for me, if I know I'm with one of my boys or both of my boys or with neither of my boys on any given day, like what is it that I, you know, can recreate that's going to have me being functional and, you know, dressed appropriately, but still feeling like myself.
Yeah. And still feeling good,
what
right?
is it?
I feel
Yeah, still feeling good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes such
And
a
for me, that's like my, I guess, like version of self-care is putting on a cute outfit, and or just doesn't have to be cute by anyone's standards other than my own, I suppose, or not even my own, but just something I feel really comfortable in and I know I'm going to be functional in, and maybe something I haven't worn 100 times already that month, because I try not to be super repetitive, because I know I have clothes in my wardrobe that I can be using. So that's something for me that I find important, is to be using what I've bought. And I'm, like you said about yourself, I'm more selective about what I bring into my wardrobe. So I'm like, if it's there, I want to use it. So
makes sense. So the first time Nat and I met, she actually came to my house to do a bit of a wardrobe audit. So we went through the clothes that I had at that point. She made me try it all on. She talked about like how I felt in it, what felt good, what didn't, how I would kind of put combinations of clothes together. And then she suggested some outfits based on kind of what I already had, and worked out what the major gaps were, I guess, in my wardrobe. And looking back, there were actually like some quite big gaps when I think about what I have now. It's interesting because what I remember from that, and that was obviously a few years ago, and my brain doesn't serve me quite as it used to. But I think the thing that I realized at the time, Nat, was like, I just don't really know how to wear my clothes. Like I would put things on, but never feel put together. And after kind of even that first appointment with you, I was like, oh, I can actually kind of create an outfit rather than just wearing individual clothes. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what I see so many people like struggle with. And it's really those like small details, the 1%ers that, you know, you add like a little tweak here and a little tweak there, and all of a sudden two little tweaks equals an extra sort of 10% value to your outfit, if that makes sense. So you kind of, doesn't take a lot to add a lot of enhancement, I guess. And those little things are usually, you know, maybe popping on. It's certainly understanding proportion of your body and how to dress to flatter your proportion, I think is that's sort of the core of everything that I like to talk about when it comes to styling. But then, you know, when it's a good idea to maybe add a belt or the right kind of shoe for something. It's, yeah, there's tiny little things that, yeah, add the most value generally.
I think adding the belt and knowing what sort of belt I was looking for and how to wear my sleeves, like particularly on my blazers, the longer blazers, have been the things that I've held on to so strongly. Like I will almost always wear a belt now, or like adjust my sleeves in a certain way so that they sit really nicely. And
because I feel like they're, well, sorry to interrupt you. I was going to
it.
say, I get excited when I hear you say that. But it's because I feel like it's like an easy to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, I gave you a little rule and I explained to you, I guess, like why I feel like it's a value add, and you've been able to run with it and continue with it because it's not a huge hassle and a huge deal. Because if something's really fussy and difficult and complicated, like I know for myself, it just falls by the wayside pretty quickly. So yeah, I felt the advice I try to impart, I always try to have practicality at the core of it. I think sometimes it's, you got to put in a little bit of work to get the goods,
You
but
did say I
it's
had
got
to
to be,
iron, which
yeah.
I don't love an iron. So I only occasionally do that. Again, I think of you when I do that.
That makes me happy. I like that.
What do you remember from the first time that you came over?
I remember that I feel like you were like, I don't know about this. This seems like a scam, which like totally fine. I would think so too. But I feel like you were like, nicest possible way, but I think you were just like, I'm not sure if I'm going to learn anything here today. But you're also like an absolute sponge and wanted to know everything. And so I love that. And I feel like you were very quickly like, I remember I remember like you in your room looking in the mirror and catching a glimpse of you looking at yourself and having this like pleasantly surprised look on your face, which is always my absolute favorite part of styling sessions. And that's why I love it so much, because I can tell people this, and this will look great on you, and go do this a certain way. But it's when people see it on themselves, that it has the most impact, obviously. And then, they're like, oh yeah, I believe that now, or truly believe it. So I remember, yeah, you were, I feel like, a bit apprehensive, but totally open-minded, and then pleasantly surprised as we sort of evolved through the session. And yeah, and the other thing I remember is you had kind of, yep, that's my skirt for XYZ function, or that's my top that I would only ever wear to this particular occasion, which, your day-to-day is not necessarily where those occasions are.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is I felt like you, as most people do, has sort of compartmentalized a lot of your clothing. There's like, this is a skirt for nighttime, that's a skirt for Sundays, this is a work top, that's a casual, what have you. And so I really like to kind of throw all that out the window, and a top is a top, and a skirt is a skirt, pants are pants, and it just depends on what you pair it with and the overall energy of an outfit that makes things, suitable for occasion. Certainly, there's some things that live in a compartment, like a ball dress, as an example, or like, a crop top or something like that, bathers. But yeah, I feel like most things have much more fluidity within a wardrobe than people kind of give them credit for.
Yeah,
and I think you were one of them. But you rolled with it, and you heard me out.
I remember you saying to me, like, don't you just have like a plain t-shirt that you could try on with this? And I was like, no, I don't seem to. I have like nice tops, and that's really all.
Yeah.
I remember trying that on. I also remember thinking about what will I wear when you come, because I was like, I need to think like I have some kind of idea of what I'm doing. But I think I was running late coming back from, I'd walked Cleo to daycare, and I was like, took me ages to walk back, and I was still in my like bike shorts and t-shirt that I'd walked in. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go with this like natural look because here she is and I'm not ready. So
no point cleaning for the cleaner.
Literally, I was cleaning.
Tidy up. Yeah, cleaning for the cleaner. Don't need to do it.
That's so funny. I do remember you kind of listing some of the things that would be helpful in a wardrobe. And so one of the things you had said to me was like, oh, I think you really need a denim jacket. And I was like, nah, I've bought several denim jackets over the years, and
yes,
I have never enjoyed wearing them. I've always felt like really weird when I put them on, and you found me a denim jacket that I wear to this day repeatedly. I love it so much. So there is
I feel like what you're saying is you were right, I was wrong.
That's
I'm
exactly
reading between the lines there. Yeah.
That is exactly what I'm saying. So then a month later, we went shopping together. We went to Karrinyup to purchase some of the things I needed. Tell me what you kind of usually do in those, or I know what you do. Tell the listeners what you usually do in those sessions.
So during the wardrobe audit, like you said, we go through what you have in your wardrobe, come up with possible additional uses for what you have in your wardrobe that you're not currently using pieces for, but also identify gaps during that session. So that's a really, really important part of the styling process. So because if we were just to jump straight to going shopping without me having seen what you had in your wardrobe, like you, as an example, you never would have put something like a denim jacket, or you probably wouldn't even put a t-shirt in your on your list because
No.
they weren't on your radar, right? So if you don't know what you don't know, so you need someone to tell you what those gaps are, and also justify to you why they're a gap, and give you the visibility into how, if that gap is filled, that item can be used going forward. So yeah, when we have finished a wardrobe audit session, I had a list of your gaps and things I thought would add value to add into your wardrobe. So then I hit the shops before you joined me, and I did a pre-shop where I scout the stores and I put things on hold based on what your gap list is. So denim jacket, we might have tried 2 or 3 on the day. So I'm looking at all denim jackets, and I might have looked at 10, and then I pick the best 3 that I think are going to serve a functional purpose, sort of be within the price range that we're looking and suit you. And then it's up to you to try those 3 on and tell me which one is the best feel, fit, and then how it fits into the context of budget when we're making actual purchases. So yeah, I pre-shop and essentially just go through the mass of what's out there and grab a really short list of items, so that when you join me shopping, we're only trying on that short list of items. So we don't really browse the stores together. We're kind of straight into a store, straight into a change room, trying on the pieces that I've shortlisted, and you're giving me a yay or a nay. And then, yeah, once we've tried everything on, so which maybe hopefully this is your memory of it too, but as we sort of move from store to store, you're like, oh yeah, like I didn't mind that denim jacket, but then, or I love that denim jacket, but then maybe by the second store you're like, oh no, I like this one better. Like it has all the qualities of the first one plus something extra. So I feel like what's good about doing that is it sort of recalibrates like my client's expectation about what they're looking for.
Yep.
Whereas, so if I only showed you say one denim jacket, you might be like, oh yeah, like yeah, that's okay. But you're sort of picking from the best of the best to give you the power to choose what is the best for you.
Yes.
And have a really good sense of what's going to be the best value add in your own wardrobe.
Yeah.
I don't think I've answered your original question.
No,
but
I think you have. Well, this is my memory too. One of the things that I really loved about the first time we ever went shopping was trying on jeans, which is not something I have ever said out loud before, because jean shopping, I think, is just so overwhelming. There's like a million stores, there's a million cuts, there's all the different washes, there's different lengths, there's
sizing.
Jeans are insane.
Yeah.
And you picked out a couple, and the first 2 were actually at Witchery. And I put them on, and I was just like, oh, this is how jeans can feel. Like, I think I've bought, cheap jeans in the past, and like not really knowing what kind of shape. Like you tried me in a mum jean the first time, which I had never worn. And I was just like, oh, okay. And it just meant that I didn't have to try on like 300 pairs and lose all faith in humanity for the rest of my life kind of vibe. It was like, oh yeah, like these are great. And then I tried the next ones on, and I was like, no, these are not as great. I'm taking the first pair. Like, yes, they were the first ones I locked in. I remember them.
I remember them too. And I think the thing that's also really important as part of the shopping session is trying on like a new shape. So for you, a mum jean was a new shape, but with the right kind of top to go with it. So it's one thing to try something that might be potentially great in your wardrobe in isolation, but then also seeing it paired with the other right correlating pieces to sort of, close the loop on it. So you really get that sense of like, okay, this works for my body and this is how I can use it going forward.
Yeah, 100%. I think that was me in the past as well. It was like buying something, one piece that I liked the fit of, but then really not knowing what else to put it with. And so then not actually wearing it a lot or feeling good in it because I didn't have the right shaped thing that kind of went with it. So like if the top was shorter, I didn't have the right height in the jeans, and it was just all felt too hard.
Yeah. Which is super common.
Yes. Well, the more people I've talked about, they're like, oh, that makes sense.
That's the problem.
I understand why you would do that. Yeah. And so were we there for, is it about 4 hours or 3 hours?
4 hours. Yeah.
which goes by in like the blink of an eye. It was unreal
Mm-hmm.
to think how quickly that goes. And just having somebody like have your sizes ready. And if they're not right, just switching it out for the next one. You're not faffing around trying to like run out into the shop, you know, in half their clothes to get a new size or
get
like
like a store person's attention to get
yes.
them to grab it for you. And yeah, I like
And
to try and make it as seamless as possible for my
it is
clients
that
trying on the clothes. And I don't want it to be, because it's never about the size. Sizing is just wild, inconsistent. It's like the wild, wild west. Every store just does whatever they want. There's no consistency or regulation. But yet, logically, you know, you would know that and I know that, but emotionally, we'd be like, oh, I don't like that number. So it's never, I don't want my clients to sort of ever focus on that. And, you know, whether we go up or down in a size, I just try and keep it moving really, not quickly in a rush sense. Hopefully it's not how you felt, but just keep it moving so that we are always focusing on fit and getting the right fit of a garment, whether we're going up or down in size, rather than being like, this is not the right size for you. This is not your number.
I think you have hit the nail on the head, and that is something I actually really struggle to do, and still a little bit to this day is like, is this a good fit for me? And I think having you there to be like, oh, that fits beautifully, or like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's too the seam is wrong here, or this too high, or that's too low. Like having somebody be like, oh yes, that is the fit, or that's not the fit, was revelationary for me.
Yeah. It does take practice because it's harder to make, I feel like this is true with everything in life. It's like harder, it's easy to make kind of bad decisions or
Yes.
like quick, like if you're not really applying the sort of discerning like thought process to something, you can go, oh yeah, that'll do. Whereas when you're being really, I guess, like critical, but in a good way about something, can you asking the right kinds of questions? You're kind of like, oh, is that right? Is that not? So yeah, it is a sort of ongoing process. And
Yeah.
it's harder to, I feel like, initially get into the swing of making those like really deliberate, intentional, good fitting purchases. But once you do it, sort of, it gets easier,
Absolutely.
hopefully.
What else do you think women in particular struggle with when shopping for clothes? What are the big challenges for clients of yours?
Overwhelm, I think, is
Yes.
just a huge one. And like I'm a bit out of the game at the moment, but you know, I would be at the shops 2, 3, 4 times a week sometimes, and stock moves so quickly. And every store, particularly at the moment, you know, every store is running a different promo every week and new visual merchandising in the window. So you walk past one, you know, oh, that looks good. Am I that woman? Maybe could that be me? And then you go to the next store and you're like, oh, that store, like, that's appealing. Maybe I'm that person. And it's hard to know what's right when you're being pulled in. Oh, they've got spend and save. That's got 20% off. That's like, you know, it's just the overwhelm, right? The overwhelm of the marketing, the overwhelm of the new releases of product that's constantly happening. So I feel like overwhelm is just a bit, and then overwhelm of knowing what you need, and am I going to find the right size, and is the change room going to be full, is it going to be hot in there, like, just, it's overwhelming. Shopping is very overwhelming. And I also feel like being unsure about what you should actually be shopping for, which kind of comes back to that gap analysis that I was talking about earlier. And it's not to say you can't just head to the shops and have a browse and see what catches your eye. But, you know, if you've got limited time, limited resources, limited patience, whatever it might be, just having a browse and hoping for the best doesn't always kind of work out. So a lot of people want to be really intentional with their time and money. So making sure that you're sort of making good use of all of those things is hard to nail down and get right. And then just knowing, the other couple of big ones are just knowing how to sort of interpret all that is available to your own lifestyle, to your own body. Sort of what I said before, like, is like at the moment, red and like butter yellow, so that really sort of pale yellow color, are just going to be, and like leopard as an example, is a print and a couple of colors that are just going to be everywhere at the moment. So if you're someone who maybe is like inclined to red, you might, oh, maybe do I want to add some red in? But how? Then what do I go with? A skirt, a top? Do I want to invest in a lot of red? Will this be around in 6 months' time? Is it going to be a waste of my money? Does red even suit me? Like, just knowing how to pick and choose, I guess, what from what is out there to interpret it to yourself if you want to. But then if you don't, you're like, well, where's all the non-red stuff? If I'm not wearing red, what am I wearing? Is there something else out there for me? Or which again sort of circles back into overwhelm. And yeah, sort of what I said earlier about just finding the time, the resources, the energy, the patience to go shopping, and not feeling guilty about doing so. I feel like that's something that comes up fairly often for mums especially, that they're like, oh, should I be spending this time and money on myself? And wanting to make really good use of their own time and resources, which is totally understandable.
And I think you've nailed it there. Like for me, when I could talk to you about something and then go and see it and you kind of facilitated the process, something that would take me like 20 to 30 hours, like to find the things that I actually wanted, to do the research, to look at what was around, to try all the things on, to go into the store. Like it's huge when you think about kind of the potential time that it would take you. And realistically, in 4 hours at the shops, you really helped me choose the things that I wanted and the things that felt good. And I just didn't have that overwhelm or that questioning like, oh, should I, shouldn't I don't know. Is that the right kind of fit? Is that something I'll wear again? Can I wear that in, 3 different ways, which you talk a little bit about? Like those kind of things are so big for people who have not just spare time to be wandering around the shops and hoping for the best. I think that's exactly my experience. So you've done well.
I kind of feel like it's like recipe development, right? So I feel like when shopping with the personal shopper is like picking up a recipe book and copying the recipe, where the hard work is done for you, right? People have spent hours telling you if it's 1 teaspoon of oregano or 2 and how much salt and pepper, and I mean, what a basic recipe that is. But, whereas trusting someone to follow their lead and to do what they're telling you to do and know you're going to get a great dish out of it is kind of how is that a good analogy?
Yeah, I think that's spot on because well, essentially you're telling me what to do, but with a little bit of flexibility in there for me to say like yes or no, that feels good. And like I think in our lives, particularly for, parents or if you're working, like you just don't want to have to make 100 more decisions.
Another decision.
Yeah, I've got nothing left to make decisions. So
yes,
if you can tell me this is a good one, and this you could wear in 5 different ways, I'm like, great, check the box. I will take that thing.
Yeah.
So
which is why, again, sorry to interrupt you. I feel like, again, that's why I feel like that initial home session where you do that gap analysis is so important, because when you're pulling the trigger on buying something, like if some of that doubt or uncertainty creeps in about, oh, will I actually use this thing? We cast your mind back to, well, we were in my wardrobe. We identified that it was a gap. I've got photos on my phone to prove that it is a gap and I can substitute that item in when I bring it home with X, Y, and Z they already have in my wardrobe. And so I feel like that background work is really important to having the certainty in making those purchase decisions. And that's why I don't generally like to shop without doing that wardrobe session, because I can drag you around the shops and buy you a bunch of things, get someone to buy a bunch of clothes. But if I don't understand their lifestyle or what they do or don't already have, then it's just shopping. It's not problem solving.
Yeah, I can see that. And I do think there's something about, like, you were very clear to me on a couple of occasions, like, no, you either choose the blue one or the green one of that. It's not, my instinct was like, oh, I really like both of those things. I will buy them. And you were like, no, you're wearing them in the same way. So choose one of them. Like, which one did you love the most so that it really fits in with what you were doing? And that, I think that like really changed how I didn't end up with the same outfit again and again and again.
Yeah, because the other natural, I guess, inclination is like, I love it. Let's get it in every color.
Yes.
But then almost every time there ends up being a favorite. And one fits in the wardrobe, barely used. It's just, there's something about it. Unless it's like a basic, like a true basic, like a t-shirt, a singlet, a long sleeve top, something like that.
Okay, so we've touched on how much time you like to save people, but you are a person who has less time now that you have just had your second baby as well. Tell me about this, the style guide. I mean, obviously I know about it because I helped in the early stages, giving some feedback. But as a busy mum now of two, you've created a new product for us to save time, I guess, with fashion.
Yeah, so heading into so when my second little boy was about 4 months old, it was starting to cool down, and winter was coming, autumn, winter, and I knew that I was going to have less time than ever to be thinking about what I want to wear. But I was, still excited by the notion of the season changing. But I was like, how's this going to work? Like, I'm going to have zero time in the morning, or any time of the day to, give attention to thinking about what to wear, and also not working, so I knew I didn't want to be spending lots of money on clothes. And so I kind of had this idea to just come up with, I guess, like, for myself, it was really just something I thought about doing for myself initially, like a catalog of those uniforms I was talking about earlier. So my personal uniforms, things that I could just pull from a dictionary, or not dictionary, oh my gosh,
Like a lookbook.
from like a catalog, a lookbook, a catalog. Yes, thank you
I
very much.
like the idea of a catalog. I like looking through and like seeing myself. Yeah.
Circling,
Yeah.
highlighting, putting a little star next to. So yeah, just essentially wanted to have a little catalog of looks that I could pick from.
Yeah.
So I know they already work. I know they're going to flatter my body. I know I'm going to be using, a range of things in my wardrobe, not just repeating the same things constantly. So yeah, and that was sort of the base idea. And then I thought, okay, well, what are some key pieces I want to be wearing this season? And like one, for example, I knew I was going to be in tracksuits because that was my lifestyle and still is my lifestyle. And tracksuits are so comfortable. But I, in the past, had bought a lot of like separate jumpers and tracksuit pants. And I was like, no, if I can pick like a top and a bottom, like a matching tracksuit set, I'm sure I can elevate it a bit and change the accessories up with a shoes or a hat or a jacket to make it feel fresh repeatedly throughout the season. So yeah, tracksuit. So brainstormed some ideas around that. And then I came up with a few other hero items. And then I started to think that maybe it would be something that would be valuable to other people who are also in a time crunch, or just don't like thinking about what to wear, or just aren't sure. And yeah, then I sort of ran with it. The idea was born, and then started creating it, and then made the product available for purchase. And then people have purchased it and used it, and I've had some really, really lovely feedback on it, that it's been really helpful for saving time and energy, and getting people thinking about using the decision
Honestly,
fatigue. Yes.
like the thing I love about it, so it's like, it's beautiful to look at because you can see the kind of outfit together and where to get all the pieces and variations on the pieces. And I just loved, like, I needed a puffer, like I wanted a puffer vest to wear with a variety of things. And I just like looked through your guide, looked at the outfits that had the puffer, found the link to the puffer, and I went to Uniqlo and got the puffer. And I just didn't have to like look at 85 different sorts, or I just knew what I needed to get and what I wanted. And then I could wear that in different ways. It was super. Yeah.
That's the actual like dream feedback. That's exactly how I hoped it would work. That someone would literally just pick it up, look for an item, go to the index at the back of the guide, see where the item was from, because all those details about pricing and product description and product code and everything's all in there, and just go and make a purchase, and then go back to the guide if they need to, and see how to actually use that piece with certain hero pieces throughout. So I tried to keep it relatively, it's not like, it's definitely not capsule in nature, because I don't sort of run my own personal capsule wardrobe, but there are pieces that are repeated throughout, so that you can, from a tracksuit to a denim skirt to a pair of jeans or a pair of trousers, wear the same shoes or wear the same jacket throughout. So you're not having to buy 70 jackets.
Yeah.
It is excessive even for me, but like 5 different jackets that you only can wear one single way. I wanted it really to be able to be pieces to be able to be repeated, but still not feel like it's repetitive.
Yeah, it definitely did that for me. And it's that like real life inspiration, but also from stores that are accessible and affordable, and that you can easily, order things and try them on, or go into the shops and try them on. And it's not like you have to buy those exact ones, but if you go in, you see something you like. I think the other example, this wasn't from the style guide, but it was the denim shorts you told me about last year. Like you said, these are a great one. So I just went in, tried them on. They felt good. I'm like, great. Like I don't have to go through the rigmarole of is there something better? Would I be better doing this? What if I try this shop? How about I go there? Or that one's more, blah, blah, blah. Like it was just, this one works really well and I don't have to keep going along that line. It's such a time saver and such a brain space saver, I think.
Well, that's what I'm currently in the phase of for the next style guide, the spring summer one. And what I did for the autumn winter one was compare items. And when I put things in the style guide, it wasn't just they're not random selections. They're made with, my styling philosophy in mind. And, there's certain things that the garment either does have or doesn't have that I think make it suitable for the suggested use. So yeah, I guess giving that sort of exact, like you said, that certainty that you're making a good choice based on that recommendation, because all the sort of decision making behind it has already been done.
It's almost like, when you access like a choice guide to something, like you look at choice guide for washing machines and you're like, cool,
Yes.
I've done the background research for this, like I can trust this. I feel like that's what this is, but for outfits. And you're like, yeah, I've looked at all the denim shorts and like these are probably my best pick of the season. And if you go in and try them on and they fit you, amazing. If they don't suit you or your body, there's like 3 others you could choose from. So go try those instead. Like that's just, I think that's priceless for people who are busy or tired or just don't have a lot of brain space for that.
And I'm all those things.
Me too. All right, tell us about the masterclass. It's coming up on my birthday.
Yes, it is coming up on your birthday. So next masterclass is going to be hosted. I can share details now because this will go live after. But Karen Up Shopping Centre is hosting this masterclass as part of their Vogue Festival weekend to launch spring summer season in centre. So the centre is going to be running a bunch of different events and promotions. There's a lot of stores that are going to be participating with discounts, and there's going to be prizes in centre and, all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm on the bill for hosting a masterclass, and yeah, super excited about it. Karen Up has been my local. It probably sounds a bit, I don't know, poxy cliche or whatever, but that's been my local shopping centre my whole life. Because I'm very worldly and live in basically the same place my whole life. But yeah, it's always been sort of like, a real like the mecca pinnacle of shopping centres. And so to be able to work with them is super exciting. So yeah, super excited to host another masterclass and really focus on spring, summer, chat about new season trends and chat about how to really dress for your body for year round, but with a really heavy focus on spring, summer.
And you do excellent snacks and drinks from what I've seen.
Yes, yummy snacks and drinks. I've got tapas that are catering, and there'll be some Prosecco and coffee, tea, juice, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's always a fun morning and I love hosting it, and it's always super stressful leading up to it. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm stressing myself out. Like, what am I going to wear? But then when it comes
what are you going to wear? Oh, can you give us a clue?
I'm not 100% sure. I did get a dress in yesterday that I'm rather fond of, and it's not a color I don't think I've literally ever actually worn in my life. So
wow,
is that a clue? Yeah. But we'll see. I'm likely to order another 15 between now and then. Flip a coin to decide.
Is there a lot of pressure on you to wear something like out of the box for these masterclasses?
I feel like yes. I mean, you don't want to I put pressure on myself, but to make the most of being out the house and not breastfeeding. And if I'm going to shave my legs and put on a fake tan, I want to do it for like a cute outfit. So I put pressure on myself for that. But I don't think anyone really cares what I'm wearing. But yeah, I want to look cute and fun and feel good. So yeah.
I'm guessing like this will go out just after it's been announced, and I reckon all the tickets will be gone. But if by some chance there are some, where do people find them?
So on my website, there'll be a link to purchase tickets, which also when the guide is released, they'll also be available for purchase via my website. And the link to my website is always on my Instagram bio, but it's www.theotherfword.com.au.
I will link that in the show notes, and I will link Nat's Instagram profile in the show notes as well. So we'll put direct links to all of those if there are any spots still available. When do you expect the spring summer guide to be released?
So the plan is that the spring summer guide will go live on the 7th of September. So a week prior to the masterclass, which is on the 15th of September. So if attendees to the masterclass can pre-purchase the guide at a slightly discounted rate. It'll be emailed to them as soon as it goes live. And then my kind of hope is that you've got a week to pore over it, decide what you need to buy, and then you can head in centre on that weekend or anytime. But if to make the most out of in-centre discounts and things, head in centre that weekend and post masterclass when you've got all your knowledge, you've got your guide, you've got your little list of shopping items, and head in the store and pick them up at a discount, hopefully.
What a good girls' day out. I feel like that would be so fun to go with a couple of friends, listen to you, have a prosecco, go shopping.
I feel like I'm going to book the day off parenting if I can, and breastfeeding permitting, but and like definitely want to cruise around the shops myself that weekend because there's going to be so many fun things happening. So yeah, I want to go and make the most of. I need to refresh my own spring summer wardrobe, so I'm gonna.
Now you've done all the research. You know what to buy.
Done all the research. Yes, I know what's good. So yeah, go and do bit of my own shopping would be nice.
Can't wait. All right, I will link to all those things. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for all the tips and tricks. If you're not already following Nat, she is posting her outfit of the day at the moment. But it's always inspiring to just like, okay, you don't have to wear activewear. Like you can wear fun things that are still comfortable. And yeah, I always get inspired by your little bits and pieces. So I will share those, your Instagram profile, as I said, in the podcast notes. And yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
A huge thanks for tuning in and listening to my podcast. This is all brand new for me, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Give me a review or send me a DM. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And above all, I'd really love you to hit that subscribe button to keep listening. Thanks.